Them will pass muster and 4 of them will not, because we have ominous clouds hanging around them regarding their past as well, and that also is well splashed on most of the dailies today, looking at the People Daily and other dailies as well. We were just listening from Nikal that
so we're saying that the hustler tag is a tag that they put on themselves. It was popular, and it is a targeted the people who identify themselves as the taggler, and they wanted to get to power. They have. Now they have to be extremely careful that we don't hop on this. Now is the time to get down and actually work and move these people out of poverty. That was a manifesto for even Azmio, all of us were that. But they are not the only people. I was telling you, my father was a cook and he couldn't live with us in Nairobi. We had to be sent home. He couldn't afford. It was one room, the domestic servants quarter, one room, 7 children. We were taking the rural areas. My mother used to sell maize. Then she was selling fish. She would get fish from Kisumu and bring it to Nairobi to sell. She even tried brewing changa and all these things. So the first pair of shoes I wore is when I was going to secondary school. The first long trousers I put is when I was going to high school. And so many Kenyans from the time of independence, really independence is one generation. If you look at it very seriously, about 60 years, that's one generation. So a lot of people you are seeing, even on the other side of the divide, came through this. Now, my issue with leaders now, wearing the tag of hustler to appeal to people who they are feeling poor, it's a dangerous thing. Now is the time to roll out the project, the social protection, all those things. If you look at Mudavadi, for example, really, by the time he grew up, he wasn't a hustler anymore. His father was an education officer, was instrumental in getting more into politics. And so he couldn't pass that tag. When he got his first salary, we said recently that the gift he was given for getting his first job was a car. Me, the first money I received in my life was when I joined the university and we were being given what was called boom. Me and my father, we agreed we pay school fees for our siblings. So there are people all across the board who have come from poor backgrounds and now are in different. So we don't think differently. The problem of poverty is for both sides. Even we in Azmio, if you take those 2 manifestos, if you look through them carefully, we are all talking about the same thing. My issue with some of these people who are nominees is not that they came from poor background. It is what they are doing in the process up. Like if you take Aisha Juma, the matters are in court. But those things that were seen, if you talk of Thika Linturi, it is those things that you are doing. Even as a hustler, you still must maintain some dignity. In fact, you are more respectable that if you're a poor person, you maintain dignity, you work hard, you know the boundaries, and say, I will work through this. But it cannot be a certificate that because you are poor, whatever else you did, even if you killed somebody, even if you robbed somebody, that is now cleansed. No, that is integrity. And let me tell you, integrity does not have to go with poverty or not. I think you know the story of a beggar in the New York City who got about $50,000 and looked for the owner. Looked for the owner to give the dollars back. That is integrity. And the issue the issue I have with people who have been mentioned are just 2. Their integrity. And let me tell you, integrity is not decided in a court of law by conviction. Court of law, you can do something, everybody may know you've done it, but for technical reasons, you can be acquitted. And everybody know you did it. It does not change your integrity. The law, even chapter 6, cannot be implemented through court decisions. It must be integrated in the court of the people and the court of public opinion. Yeah. And when you are leading in this, like ministers, I was telling you earlier, ministers are the overall leader of a ministry, both in character, in politics, and in morality. The PS is basically the manager. The director, the technical people, are the people who get the work done. But the person who gives it is the minister. So the minister has a much bigger responsibility of integrity, particularly in a situation like ours.
Thank you.
So I think they should not overhype this. The problem of poverty of our youth is huge. Politicians know every day in your house, particularly in your home, they pack it in the morning, each and every one of them. I was chased for 2,000 shillings. Somebody is sick in hospital. That is what we're now getting to.
All right. Boni, let's come to Boni. Boni, because we have all this, and I think the People Daily is one which is carrying out this particular... People Daily. You don't have a copy of it there, but I should be able to put it up on the screen so that you can see. Moses Kuria, it says here that in Azimio crosshairs, opposition legislators are pushing their colleagues to reject Ruto's choices, saying they have cases and are not competent. We have Moses Kuria. His opponents have zeroed in on his past conduct, saying he is not suitable for a cabinet role. We have Penina Malonza as well. Those who want her rejected her. They say she did not demonstrate understanding of what her docket really entails. And also Mithika Linturi, his critics say he has way too many court cases, 35, of course, civil cases in all, and he should get them out of the way fast. 35. We have Aisha Jumwa, opposition legislators say she has pending criminal case and protest DPP's attempt to drop it. So those are the four that we are given to understand. That now is still a debate that the appointment committee is split over. And they'll always latch on that particular portion of the constitution until proven guilty. You're innocent.
I want to agree with those scholars. But I also want to remind them that under the parliamentary procedure of vetting, there is what is being done and what was intended. The intention of making it mandatory for appointees to cabinet position to be vetted by parliament never came with a rider that it is a must that all the people who have been proposed by the president should then move on and be cleared. So I'm happy that they are pointing out only 4 out of 22. I mean, most of us followed this exercise. We could clearly see that thanks to his legal background and many years of experience in court and also as a magistrate, Wetangula has steered the process fairly professionally. We also witnessed that some of those appointees did a very impressive job. For example, number 1 on the list was Davis Chirchir. The way he commanded his understanding of issues of energy, followed by Kipchumba Murkomen, was very impressive. So, that being the case, that the law expects and allows members of parliament who are on this table, 2 of them, to go and reject these 4 people. So instead of coming to this TV, we want them to go and hone their debating skills, either at the committee level, where Nyikal sits, or in the committee of the whole, in the House, so that the people they think are not up to it can collapse. What I don't agree with is to start taking the responsibility of an institution just because you are an MP. If you are an MP and there is an institution called the Office of the DPP, independent, constitutional, and the DPP makes a decision, you say, no, the DPP is wrong, he should have ruled in my way. We should subscribe ourselves to the decisions of independent institutions. If there's no evidence that Jumwa shot somebody, why do you want to condemn her to jail? If you are a politician, and my 3 colleagues know, those are very rough streets. You find yourself in very, very weird areas. I have personally been at the midst of 2 youths losing their lives, up to and being taken to go and record a statement the same way Jumwa has done. But when the exercise is investigated, you find that the matter is far removed from you. If people were being stopped from being office because of being where the loss of life took place, then Raila would never be a president, because there are many people who have lost their lives where Raila is involved. I have said there are 2 youths who lost their life where I was involved. So you cannot say that because Raila was there and these youths lost their lives, Raila should not be allowed to be a prime minister the way we allowed him in 2007. You remember he was coming from post-election violence? We could very well have said that this man, because of having been around the issue of post-election violence, should not be fit to be a prime minister. Mambo baka ichunguzwe bwana properly, and don't try Jumwa, Linturi, and Kuria. Allow the institution. Then that way, you are fighting corruption. Mheshimiwa has said
so is that
the issue of integrity. And every time Nyigal speaks, he just impresses me. Nyigal has told you the story of the beggar in the New York streets. But you remember vividly the statement by the former Attorney General, Professor Gideon Muigai, at the Supreme Court, when he was speaking to, agreeing with, when you are right, when he told us, you are not right because you agree with the majority. Gideon told us, you are right because you agree with your conscience, even if you are in minority. If there are members of parliament who think they are right, that Kuria, as they have written there, and others, is not fit, we want them to take the highest platform in the land, parliament. It will be life. Let them address us. Let them persuade us. And I can assure you, collective shame. I know how parliament works. All these members have been in parliament for a relatively shorter time than myself. I've been there for a long time. Even Speaker is a junior man when it comes to me. The number of years served. So, if you put your case to members of parliament, they are not fools. They listen. And the ones who wanted to be defiant, because of shame, they'll either walk out to go to the toilets or they'll hide not to catch the eye of the speaker. Kwa sababu ukweli sasa umeanza kudhihirika. And Speaker has been in the chair for many years. He knows that is how parliament works. So, guys, stop us the drama of calling people names. Go and prosecute your case in the House and give us evidence.
So what is the rhyme and reason of having this particular exercise? If at all that will be the argument, if they're brought with questionable characters at the end of the day, then we leave them and subject them to the requisite authorities to carry out investigation, if it's the judiciary. Is it just a PR exercise? Why are we wasting taxpayers' money? Or because it is enshrined in the Constitution, we just have to do it?
You know, let me now zero in on an example. This little girl called Jumwa. Jumwa is being hammered on many things. I've spoken to the issue of being around a scene of murder. But let me speak to the issue of education. If you people want cabinet secretaries to have degrees, we don't have a shortage of Kenyans who have degrees. Then say it in the Constitution. The Constitution does not say that a cabinet secretary must be a degree holder. It does not. So why are you insisting? The president had a reason why he thought this honorable member should be a minister. And for your information, the people flogging this horse are forgetting the expectations you have of a minister. When the minister is in office, his responsibility, her responsibility, is to give guidance on policy. But the technical issues, including administrative, accounting, is the responsibility of the permanent secretary. So if you give Juma and you don't like her very much because she got a D in class 8, you must know that she'll come from cabinet with a position of policy headed by the president and agreed on by cabinet, the policy in her ministry. Then when she speaks to that policy in her ministry, there will be a technical man called the permanent secretary who works together with other technical people. Now, when they are implementing that, if anything goes wrong, Juma will then say, we'll sack you. It will not be Juma doing that job. And this is why I was telling you, the best way for us to succeed is to allow professionals to do professional work. You do. And there's no shortcut. Kama wewe unachukua kinyangarika, unakipatia professional job, basi, take a matatu driver and give him a Dreamliner 787 to fly. But if you know that a matatu driver cannot fly a Dreamliner, don't give him to fly it for you. So I have confidence in the people President Ruto has given us, and I expect that Parliament will not only speak to it, but it will act.
So what essentially you're telling me is that if he's a Dreamliner, the captain necessarily doesn't have to be a pilot. The first officer is a technical guy there, so to speak, who has the technical know-how of flying this particular plane. So it doesn't really matter who is the CS, because that is just a policy direction. The technicality is the PSS and the secretary there.
What I mean, Dibal, is that the person who owns the company that has got a fleet of Dreamliners should hire competent pilots to fly those Dreamliners. He should not hire matatu drivers.
So, but you've not answered me to the exercise that we are actually observing in Parliament. It's just that a PR exercise. Since you're telling us still we go back to the institutions. After that, they still have the institutions will be working on them as well.
I want to insist, and I'm appealing to members of Parliament, if they are persuaded by a report from an institution that this appointee is culpable for ABCD, they should not serve as a laundry. They should not launder him. They should say, we are very sorry, we like you very much, but unfortunately, because of these allegations, you are not fit. And then the House votes.
Thank you.
That's my position.
Isaac, so you hold the same view that that should not be a laundromat?
Well, I think we are actually judging these nominees in the court of public opinion. It would not be good if there was no dissenting voice, because that would mean that then everybody is a rubber stamp. But let's hear the reasons as to why in Parliament, as Dr. Khalole has put it. Because on the first instance, if it's about court cases, last year I had 7 court cases.
Exactly.
And they were all engineered to remove me from Parliament. Midhika Linturi, we were with him in Eldoret, and he used a term in that I don't want to repeat here. And he was really harangued and harassed, but a certain senior politician used the same word, and he was never even brought to book. He actually apologized publicly, and he was let scot-free. So we have seen in the last reigns of President Uhuru that state machinery has been used against people. Look at the newspapers today and see the death of these people from Pakistan, the journalists. I mean, they were here to do some investigative work or whatever, and then they were killed. I mean, you could see now even the SSU unit, which I was actually I was just about to be a victim of that SSU unit. I was a target at some point. And you can know the story of Dennis Itumbi and others. So you cannot then therefore say you take people to court and then use that against them so that they do not qualify to be members of cabinet. And I think there is no threshold of qualifications of a member of cabinet. If we were to go by even what people have studied in school, then you would say a lawyer should not be in the Ministry of Interior or in charge of roads. But this is a policy body where people make a collegiate, decision based on technical advice. And by the way, Debal, I am a student of public policy. One of the things we used to argue was, do you need a list of professors to lead a government, or the list of the first 100 people registered in the local station? And the answer was always that 100 people. Because the eclectic nature, the wisdom that comes with people seeing the other way is very, very paramount. And President Ruto was very clear. Even politicians are technocrats. They are professionals. If you just rely on people, if you are just bookworm there, you have also to be street smart. Aisha Jumwa introduces some dynamism, for example, of our politics. She's an inspiration. And in fact, we like the fact that she was honest. She never lied that she got an A- from River Road. She says, this is my D-. I actually took myself back to school after being forcefully married. She's inspired millions of young women and people that you can make it, you see. So that kind of, you need a cabinet that is a representation of the mosaic of the people. We are the people who went to the public and said we are hustlers. So these stories of hustling are inspirational. And even if you come to Musalia Mudavadi, we also say you will not be discriminated because of who your father was. And that, despite your background, whichever that it is, you can still make it and make something out of yourself. And also, we trusted a President Uhuru administration and said, people who are from, stable backgrounds, they will make the economy. I think the looting that happened in the handshake government is unforeseeable. And through huge unbudgeted projects. Like now, we were at Uhuru Gardens during the Mashujaa Day. And that place is done. It's splendid. It's wonderful. And it is where we got our independence. It's where we know the celebrations. But at what cost? So I think let us not try to just say that we expected somebody, from a border rising all the way. I think that was not the whole. There was a misinterpretation of the hustler spirit. The spirit is about people empowering, others to rise up and moving millions of people from poverty. And there can never be better people than His Excellency, the President, the Chief Hustler, and the people who are around him. I mean, some of these people, without mentioning names, we were just hustling with them the other day, young men. And I heard somebody's worth 400, 500 million. I have said that, but you were with you the other day. And that means, it brings the issue of enterprise. One of the things that we say in the plan is we shall not criminalize enterprise. I believe that the newspapers are trying to criminalize enterprise here by saying that because you are not a billionaire, okay, let's ask this question the other way around the bar. So then who is supposed to qualify for cabinet? Is it, those people who had already a background of making a lot of money? Is that what we are trying to say? That then if we know that your source of wealth is from some kind of pedigree, we will not have a problem with you? That's not right. If then they can make it that way, and I must congratulate them, because if they were still able to make some savings with all the harassment you face when you're looking for votes, because in politics there are three things: you either win, you become poor, or you die.
Or go to jail.
Let's because it's a difficult job, this one. And sometimes we say this and people think we are just saying it. But I can tell you for sure it's difficult. But let me say that, just by the way, thank you very much, Dr. Khalwale, for your compliments. And those two young people, Timothy Aseka and Martin Wanyonyi, I literally mentored them, actually. In fact, I employed them. I gave them their first job because I knew I needed people to succeed me where I couldn't. So I'm very, very proud of them, and I hope that we will have opportunities, for many Kenyans to serve and to be seen to be. And even some other group of people that I helped, that may be controversial, but I stood with them and brought their issue to the limelight, the intersex people. Because that, for me, is my calling, to be a voice of the voiceless. And that is the equal opportunity that we need for each and every other Kenyan. And we worked very well with Dr. James Ikal when he was PS. I was his technical officer and worked in many ways. So I think what I'm trying to say in short is that this government should really enhance that equal opportunity for all. And as Farabalim said, really the idea that President Ruto has become president, a deputy president who became president. It's amazing. People don't know what they did, actually. I don't think the ramifications of his presidency may not necessarily even be in the delivery. Why am I saying so? Because we have actually inherited an insolvent country. It's the mere fact that he actually made it. That in itself is an inspiration.
Thank you. Faro.
Dibal, I think the fact that we all were at one stage or the other in our lives hustlers is something that is not contestable. Actually, at the time of independence, the only people who had some little money, the Africans who had money, were Somalis. The only other Africans who had money.
You had the money?
Well, some had the money.
Oh, some had
the money, yeah. Because there's a long tradition of being traders, very, very long tradition. Boni Khalwale does not say that too often, but he tells me and he appreciates it. His school fees was paid by a Somali businessman in Kakamega, is it? Kakamega.
Mohammed Ibrahim.
Yes, Mohammed Ibrahim.
He's still there.
He's still there, yes. Olelenku, if you look at the second name of Olelenku, he's called Joseph Jama Olelenku. He was brought up by a Somali family.
Oh, okay.
You see what I mean? His second name is actually not Somali. He was brought up by a Somali family. And there are many, many others there. My uncle told me, my late uncle told me, he wanted to buy like 10 houses in Lavington Green, in Kileleshua, in everywhere at the time of independence, because he had a fat amount of about almost 400,000 shillings, 390,000 shillings in the account. You couldn't find that many people who had that. So everybody had. Personally, my father was a worker. My father was what you call the mounted camel corps of those days. Those ones who used to put on something and ride the camels. They were soldiers, basically, tribal policemen. So we all came through that. But then the issue now is, do we visit that to enrich our own knowledge and understanding and empathy and see how far we can get away from that position, not just for ourselves, but for the whole country? Or do we live in that? We can't live in that. So anybody who assumes that the hustler cabinet should be people who are hustlers themselves, roasting maize cobs and to say the least, is a bit sick. It doesn't work that way.
All right.
But then, of course, if they're married and they can bring about a change, we'll appreciate. Always people who bring about changes in countries are either people who are filthy wealthy in one reason or the other, or people who are princesses. You know, the olden days, the kings. You always had a prince who comes out there and says, I will change because he wants a name to himself and legacy.
Thank you.
And having said that, I was telling Boni Khalwale, it's very easy to lift 10 million people out of poverty in this country. And then he asked me how. I told him, you'll have to pay for that consultancy.
Let me sum it up.
What you need in this country, more than anything else, are two things. One, remove monopoly in business. Remove the political class from business. Not for them to use that. You see, if you ask today who's the richest family, which is the richest family in the country?
The Kenyatta family.
They'll tell you the Kenyatta family. You ask them which is the second richest family.
The Moi family.
We ask the third richest family.
The Jaramogi.
Progressively, it goes down there, and all of them are people who, at independence. Just a moment. Let's say the Jaramogi family, all the way to William Ruto family. They will even say William Ruto family. Am I right? Now, you ask yourself. You come out of detention in a two-roomed house built for you. And 15 years later, you own millions of acres of land.
I tell you.
You get my point? And that also happens to literally everybody. How? Was that made through business? That was made through government. In the moment we eliminate the use of government for personal enrichment, what you call patrimony. Patrimony. You know what I mean? You use that, we remove that, and we create, the state capture for that matter. Ordinarily, we have, what's the state? A state is having the monopoly of power, legitimate power. Monopoly of legitimate power over defined territory. Max Weber, I don't remember who was the one who defined that. But then you have the state, you have the power of the executive in the state there. But the constraints of that is the rule of law. Not rule by law, the rule of law, where the king is subject to the same laws as the maize roaster.
Indeed.
Out there.
Thank you.
And hang on a minute, let me tell you.
We need to
but when you use when you use that state capture to enrich the political elite and they become billionaires and trillionaires and multi-billionaires and the rest of it. Now, that's where the problem is. And this country has had more to do with state capture. People who pays taxes in this country is the ordinary person who pays taxes. The elite do not pay taxes. They get the waivers on those things.
We save it for next week.
Can I just finish this now?
We save it for, yeah.
Can I just finish now? Can I just finish now? Because my position is that, yes, this country can be changed. We can lift out of poverty 10, 15 million people. But we have to have the right policies, and we have to have those policies cutting across the entire spectrum of this country.
Dr. Nyikal, then we get a round of
closing
remarks.
I'll tell you what's going to happen in Parliament. What we all know. The minority will have their say, and the majority will have their way.
Yeah.
So I think Bonnie is right to say we have to bring out the issues what we think out. Whether we convince our colleagues in Parliament
or not,
or whether people go by the political loyalty, but what is important are these things the public should have known. And two, in my view, I think to me, actually, in human beings, character beats everything else. Character beats education, character beats wealth, character beats position. So in my view, what you are looking at in this is to a large extent character. So, and we must not ignore public opinion when you are running government. So when issues come which are publicly known, you must put more scrutiny. And if you have information to the contrary, educate the public so they say, okay, so and so must have been portrayed like this, but it's really not. This is the facts we have. But people must express, bring out what they know, and bring out their doubts. And it is good that you say, as you say, only 4 people in that what you are reading have been brought out, not all of them. But the other thing is capacity. Like I think one of the people there I actually watched, and I don't want to say much, go into individuals, because I'll still have opportunity when I'm in Parliament. And if the performance is not acceptable, don't attribute it or use it as a punishment. Just say this is not acceptable.
Thank you.
It is not just education. What about the capacity? There are people who are not educated. I've worked with ministers of all levels.
Thank you.
And what has been important is the ability to comprehend what is being brought. And that's what we're... Capacity and integrity.
Bode Halole, your closing remarks, 30 seconds.
30 seconds. I would like members of the public not to belabor the issues surrounding the 22 nominees. They are going into office so that they become drivers of the enablers of economic growth. And as they stand behind it, one of the cardinal issues is unemployment. Every ministry, the driver must ensure that we create jobs, we create opportunities for people to earn a livelihood. We have to now look at these drivers as people who will remind Kenyans that the civil service should not be the principal employer of Kenya. The civil service cannot employ more than 2 million people.
You remember my bell?
Yeah, the great bell.
Yeah. Your time is up. 30 seconds. Thank you.
I remember the good old days.
I remember the good old days. All right, Isaac, what are 30 seconds?
Thank you very much. I think 2 things quickly. Number one is I'm still it's music to my ears that Rishi Sunak is the new Prime Minister of England, because now the colonizers are being colonized by the, that kind of thing. It's a very good thing. And
the colonized.
Yes. I mean, like they are now, And I'm happy because it's a no-brainer, and there's a huge Asian community in England. Every corner, shop is owned by one.
Indeed.
And of course, they have a history in Kenya. Like Kenya, Obama. That means Kenya is a special place. And finally, is to say that I have been going through the Constitution, and Parliament is actually very powerful. I hope parliamentarians can know that. Yeah.
Indeed. Thank you.
We're first.
You're closing
when he says that he's been to London and every corner he goes there, he sees a nation. Add the fact that there are also many Somalis these days, and we're coming.
Yeah.
We're coming in a big way. But by the way, let me tell you one thing.
I know. That should be another topic.
I'm just finishing that.
With the demographic swamping.
I'm just finishing.
We need to go.
I'm just finishing that. Look, I can tell you one thing. In the 80s,
Farah, it will take
I saw
30 seconds.
in Cardiff, in Liverpool, in all the major port cities, Edinburgh and the rest of them, there were Somali property owners in the 80s and the 70s.
Thank you. Dr. Nikal, so we prepare for our Somali presidency in the near future.
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
I think that, as I said, you can, let me just add this, I'd actually added, do not punish people or demonize people today because their fathers were rich, while you yourself praise yourself for being rich today when you were poor. It then you are now saying your children in future should be demonized because of you.
Well,
No thrift.
a good pause giver.
But you need to help Farah.
Yeah.
You need to help Farah.
Indeed.
Farah is saying very well, he says that Somalis, we want Farah to lift his thinking so that he says
Africans.
He says Kenyans of Somali origin.
No.
The moment you don't say it that way, people are saying your allegiance is to the Republic of Somalia.
All right.
Look.
Yeah.